in
experience in London. We went over to go see Michael Jackson in London, and it was just a really bad experience in the sense that we never actually got to see Michael Jackson, and we got a tip where he was gonna be, and I wanted to go so bad, and the whole reason we went on the trip, my dad paid for it all, was for me to go see Michael Jackson and hopefully, you know, get to talk to him or have a picture with him. I was so disappointed that I was not allowed to go, and we just ended up sitting in the room for the rest of that day, and we couldn't go see him. The third day was like a Sony like protest thing, and something again that I wanted to go, another reason I want to go over there, and I couldn't go to that either. And then also too, I got to go to London when I was 13. That was the time when Michael was like anti-Sony, and so we got to like see him perform. We went to a tribute show, got a Michael Jackson doll, camped outside his hotel with everyone else. It was really, really cool, and like, yeah, I got to like hug him, and he was awesome. Like, I loved Michael Jackson, and that's why it was so sad for me, like a couple of years ago when he died. It like made me so sad, because I absolutely loved Michael Jackson, and those were probably like some of my most memorable moments from childhood. They all had to center around him. And Michael Jackson, I really loved.
Michael Jackson used to spend a lot of time sitting out in front of his house.
My dad would drive me up when I'd come out to visit. I would skip school sometimes and come out to California, and my dad would like drive me up to Michael Jackson's house, and we just sit outside for like ever. One time, we met this girl outside the gate too. She was like me. She was just sitting out there with her dad. And my dad got us like a plane to like fly over Michael Jackson's house and like look at it. It was...
What did you talk to Michael Jackson about?
I just remember I had the Moonwalk book, and I was with my dad, and I just said that I was like in love with him. I was like, I want to marry you. I said that to Michael Jackson.
This is the part that
he
got
just
under my
said,
skin.
he just asked me to like come into his house. I don't know. I don't want to see it. Nothing weird. Nothing weird. Nothing like sexual.
Okay, hold on. So you go. Hold on.
I'm a girl.
By the way,
I'm a girl.
You're with your dad. Does he invite both of you back to the house?
Yes.
Okay.
We're like in front of the gate. We're already at the house. We're like parked on the street.
Got it. Okay. Typical.
Yes.
So he invites the two of you in. Do you walk with him from the gate to the house? Do you drive?
You drive. You get your pass. You drive.
Okay.
Yeah. Honestly, my experience was really positive. Like, there was a bunch of kids there.
Okay.
Oh my God. Michael Jackson died before I could meet him.
Okay, I don't know if y'all caught when she dropped that, oh, he invited me into his house, but nothing, happened because I'm a girl. And then she literally said that, oh, yeah, there was a bunch of kids there. Do you know what she's insinuating? And then chuckles. And then, guys, think about how I'm going to show you some things. This is a video I've been working on, and I've been working on it for a couple days, because this really, really makes me mad. For this person that you just produced this video talking about how, all these videos were in their past, For her to like drag someone like Michael Jackson I'm going to present to you a case of why I believe that when people claim SA, and you all know what I mean, that it is imperative that evidence is provided. Evidence. Listen, and if you don't think I speak from experience and knowing I've been subjected to certain things, I can give you my anecdotal things of my life and how it was when I was younger, stuff like that. But before I get off on that tangent, think about what she said here at the very end when she said that her and her father was sitting outside the gate. There was another another child with their father sitting outside the gate. And she tells that podcaster that Michael Jackson apparently came outside the gate where they were sitting and invited her up to his house. That is how that story would have to go in order for her to be invited in if she's outside the gate. This man had security all around him. He had security devices in his house. I will tell you what I think a lot of the motives for his paranoia were, and I believe a lot of them were justified. The man, he owned half of the production at Sony. I don't know if y'all are aware of that, but anyway, back to my point here. He owned half of Sony Music Publishing. I've got a lot of notes on this, as you can imagine. But you have to, again, think about this. Neverland Ranch was like I think it was like 80 acres or something. I think it'll tell us in this one documentary that I'm going to show. Well, not even a documentary. It's a YouTuber that did a video about 5 years ago, and I had researched a lot of this, and some of this stuff I will eventually have to put together myself. But this is again why I try to focus heavily on evidence, because I don't know if any of you people, any of you are aware or how you feel on this subject matter concerning Michael Jackson, but I need people to understand no evidence was ever produced. None. The FBI got a search warrant for Neverland, went into his home. A locksmith came in with a drilled through every one of his safes. They tried to present a piece of evidence, was like boys will be boys. It was millions of copies were sold. It was like a coffee table book. It was, I think it was an artist book about artistry or architecture, one or the other. But they tried to claim that as P material, as CP material. That was what they tried. It was, of course, thrown out in court. There's a lot of other things. And like I have brought up just some articles to show you what I mean by why I think it's so important for evidence. If you don't, I'm a woman. I'm going to speak on this, and I'm going to speak on it candidly. And all you other ladies out there that are listening, you know what I mean by this. If you've never met a girl capable of doing this, I wonder how many of you know someone through someone else that is vindictive or spiteful, or, you know, here, let me just, instead of just spewing it off, I'll show you some examples of what I'm talking about. Like this is from the USA Today. This is just an excerpt out of this article. This is from 2018. Look, October the 17th, 2018. It says, most accusers don't lie, but some do. Family and friends have pleaded with me not to recount an experience I had when I was a state prosecutor. Their feeling is that acknowledging any false accusations, a crack in the china that threatens the cup. I get it, and I used to agree. I don't anymore. Part of the ramped up fervor that comes with a public allegation of SA is the anticipated reaction that people will believe or not before the facts are revealed. This reaction may be human, but blindly cheering for one side or the other does a disservice to both. One of the few cases I dismissed as a prosecutor was an R case in which the victim ultimately admitted she falsely claimed consensual S was rape, or R. That doesn't matter. I'm not monetized anyway. After her boyfriend found out her affair with another man. I spent months investigating before the truth came to light. So she accused a man of R. And I don't understand why some of these words you can't say on this platform when other ones like, like the F bomb or dick or like all these other words you can say. But when you're talking about something like serious like this that needs to bring awareness to it or not, I don't understand that. But that's just, there's examples after examples of this. Attention-seeking woman is found guilty of falsely accusing 15 men of R and SA after claiming she was a lesbian and would never have sex with a man. Okay, this is an extensive one. She made up bogus R and SA claims against 15 men in 3 years just for attention. For attention. Sound familiar? Today finally faces jail for appalling lies. She claimed to be a lesbian with no desire to sleep with men, and her bogus complaints to police led to Mahad Kasim serving 2 years in jail. She told police that Kasim raped, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to read. R'd her after offering to give her a lift home, but in fact, she got out of the car and told him to get your pants down. Told him. He was compensated with 11,000 euros. She would even injure herself and use self-inflicted cuts and bruises against the 15 victims she falsely accused of SAs, including one who fled the country with his life in tatters. This is what no one wants to talk about. I don't give a damn when people try and say, well, if you bring awareness to this, then you're discrediting other people. Are you kidding me? No, what you're saying is it's not okay to ruin someone's life because you're a vindictive asshat. if something has happened to you, by all means, those men should be thrown under a damn jail. They should be flung under the damn truck. But my point is that you're getting dangerous territory when it's hashtag believe all women, because there are women like this woman out there. And we all know it. It goes on. And a New York woman, 20, who lied about ours, appeared to roll her eyes in court as she was jailed for a year. A woman who lied that she was R'd by two men during a college party appeared to roll her eyes in court as one of the victims talked about how the allegations affected his life. No one talks about these men that are accused and how, I'm telling you, their lives are freaking ruined. Doesn't matter that they're acquitted. The damage has been done. Nikki Jovino, 20, of South Setauket, New York, was sentenced Thursday to Bridgeport Superior Court for 3 years in prison, with the sentence suspended after she serves 1 year. Really? I wonder how many more years the guys would have got. She was attending Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut, when she reported being R'd by two school football players in the bathroom at an off-campus party in October of 2016. The two men both admitted to having sex with her, but said that the encounter was consensual. She subsequently admitted to making up the claim so she wouldn't lose a potential boyfriend. Although the players were never arrested, both of them withdrew from the school while facing possible discipline, and one of them lost his football scholarship. Now, again, this is the stuff that you want to tell me you don't want to talk about because you're concerned about someone that has legitimate accusations. What happened? Again, I'm not going to get on that train. I'm sorry. I'm going to be based on evidence. I'm going to care whether you ruin a woman's life or a man's life. Period. Some of you out there, I have a father. Okay. Some of you out there, you have brothers or a cousin or a guy friend that you like a lot. It matters that they still have a life if someone falsely accuses them. This is, again, the part of the story nobody talks about, is a lot of the times their life is ruined. She admitted she made up the allegations of essay against the football players because it was the first thing that came to mind, and she didn't want to lose another male student as a friend and potential boyfriend. She claimed that they R'd her because she was worried that another guy might think something less of her. Are you hearing this? I'll continue. I won't go into it. This is just making a point. This is that woman again. I was just going to show you where more outlets covered this. It wasn't just this one. And this was in the LA Times. This is another one. It says, I'll show you the title. This is even the op-ed. This is the whole cabinet. See, this is why I don't want to get political, because, again, this is another case where there was no evidence presented. I don't care if you're right, left, or middle. The point is that it matters. Evidence matters. And again, this is what I'm hoping that we can all grow and aspire to be, is when throwing politics out the window. Don't be so spiteful that you're cheering for an innocent person to be convicted of a crime. We have lost our way if that's the goalpost we set in this country. Well, it's okay because I didn't like his politics. Where it's okay because, he made me mad. You can disagree with somebody all day long, okay, about whatever, a certain subject matter, blah, blah, blah. But this is serious. And I don't understand why nobody is willing to really talk about it or highlight it. And maybe as a woman, I don't know, maybe that's what I'm here trying to do today, because again, but it says the studies show that 2 to 8% of police reports are false. 2 to 8%. Let's just, there was another one I read that was up to 10. Now imagine 10 out of 100 that are just being spiteful. But there was something in here I wanted to read. Sometimes credible sounding claims of SA are exposed as false only because there is a video recording. Just this week, 4 California dentists recently charged with R-ing an intoxicated woman at a Las Vegas hotel were exonerated by a cell phone video that confirmed their claim of consensual sex. So if it wasn't for a damn cell phone video, where do you think those 4 dentists would be? Last year, a Shiprock, New Mexico woman was charged with perjury after she accused her boyfriend of forcing herself on her, but recanted once she was told that he had a video. Further complicated with the fact today, accusations can be made online and amplified in the media even if no evidence is adjudicated. Add that to the shifting definitions of SA and R. Are you too drunk to consent? If your judgment is impaired, but you can walk, talk, text, and initiate sex, Title IX campus proceedings frequently hold male students responsible in such situations. So if you have regret sex, right? If you go to a frat party and you get shit-faced and you do something, you wake up and oh, hey, I made some rough decisions last night. Oops. You can turn around that next day and say that dude did something to you. That's where we're at. I'm sorry, but you can disagree with me, but I personally got a problem with that shit. So anyway, this is all leading up to a point. I promise. This is that woman again. You see the picture they used in that other article. This is that one that accused all those guys of what happened. And the reason for false reports. Every academic study, one of the most common kinds of false accusers is a teenage girl who tells their parents she was hard to avoid getting in trouble. Most common is she tells her parents that so she don't get in trouble. Unwanted pregnancy is sometimes cited by such girls, but the reason can also be trivial. The phrase missed curfew shows up with disturbing frequency in these cases. Are y'all guys following me? As a rule, it's the parents who insist on getting police involved. The 2 different studies have found that almost half of all false R complaints are lodged by someone other than alleged victim, usually a parent. So the parents are now going to be like, oh no, it'd be my little girl. I think that's almost enough. I mean, there's so many in here. This is about him. It goes on to talk about other there's not about him in here, there's other stuff, but I'm gonna fast forward. This is about the Durham University guys, the lacrosse team. If you have never heard that story, it's freaking horrible. Former players, David Evans, Colin Finnerty, Reed Sigelman, who were wrongly accused of SA at a party. I think girl was called, I think she was called like Mattress Girl or something, if this is the right case. If not, I apologize. But yeah, it was, they had that running thing about her because it was bad. The charges against the 3 men forced the cancellation of the team's highly anticipated 2006 season and cost coach Mike Pressler his job. So it cost the coach the job. They didn't even get to go participate in a competition. No, it canceled the whole season. In 2007, North Carolina Attorney General Roy Cooper reviewed the case and exonerated the 3 men, declaring that the charges should have never been brought against them. I'm telling you, they're out there. These stories are out there. And I'm only highlighting is, listen, I'm all about holding people accountable. See, and this is what I mean by politics. It's happened on both sides, even in our political spectrum. But because we have this dogmatic thought process that, oh, well, they're on my team, so let's excuse them, make excuses for them. Bullshit. That's not okay. We got a problem. This guy right here spent 2 weeks in maximum security prison after he helped a lady fix her car. Keenan Basic stopped to help a 19-year-old woman with her car at a service station. A woman with a broken down car. Mr. Basic spent 2 hours helping her fix it. They hugged and he followed her a short distance to make sure she was okay. Days later, the woman claimed that Mr. Basic stalked her and incidentally assaulted her. Mr. Basic spent 2 weeks in prison, lost his job, and is going through a divorce. Our charges were dropped against him after the woman admitted to lying. He spent 2 weeks in prison, lost his job, and is getting divorced. This is what I mean by there's consequences to your actions. This is what I did that whole thing about Trisha when she manifested whatever. She's manifested her backlash. This is another one where this woman claimed that an officer, misconduct on an officer, and thank God they had the damn body camera footage that showed she was full of crap. A Texas woman falsely accused a state trooper of essaying her during a traffic stop. It was bullshit. Why? Because of his body cam. That's the story of Emmett Till. Everybody likes to bring up Emmett Till. Well, do you know what happened? Do you know why his life was ended? Because he was falsely accused of SA. I mean, I could get again. Okay, I'm gonna. There's, as you can tell, I've brought you up the evidence. What I did though with her,
I never actually got to see Michael Jackson.
When she says here she never got to see him, then she says she got to see him in London, then she said she got invited to his house in Neverland. I mean, like, it's never ending. But what pissed me off is at the very end when she was like, she got invited. Well, I'm a girl. Or there was a lot of kids. And at the very end said she never got to meet him. And then these are some clips that just to show you why people were like, well, why did he like hanging around kids a lot? Why did he like hanging around children a lot? If you bother to go back and research any of his history, I showed you, I'll show you evidence coming out of his own mouth. Questions that he was asked that showed you. Remember, MJ never had a childhood. His dad had him in the living room practicing when this kid was 5 years old. And all the truth came out about how his father treated him. He said, use Michael Jackson as the example. Work them like grown-ups. So he never had a child. I wonder why he would want to make a fairy tale, basically like a circus, like Ferris wheels, elephants. He wanted to see children. I think it was like one of his cousins said that he was talking about a birthday party. Michael Jackson asked him how it was because he'd never had one. Let that sink in. Why he made such a big deal. And then if you imagine how Hollywood was, if you need to look into the Epstein or the Weinstein, or you need me to do some coverage on that, about how these kids were treated in Hollywood. The casting couch. And you got to understand who Michael Jackson probably was. He probably saw this stuff happening all the time around him. Why do you think he took Macaulay Culkin under his wing? I believe, and tried to protect that kid. There's a lot more to that story. I'm going to play some of these clips so maybe people get an understanding of why he was the way that he was or when he hung around young kids.
Such a large family, you play off of each other. What would you do if you had a vacation? I mean, a real vacation where you could just get off and away from singing and anything that looked like work? What would you do?
What would I do? I really don't know.
You've never really done it.
She said, what would you do if you really had a vacation? He looked at her like, I don't know. How old do you think he is right here? What, 14, 15, maybe 16? I don't know. I'd say mid-teenager. I asked what he would do. He looks dumbfounded, like he doesn't know what he would do.
In my life, I really had one vacation, and that was last Christmas. Outside of that, let me think what I did. I just stayed home. I watched television. I read a lot.
Well, that's a treat.
Had one vacation last Christmas.
I mean, that's a vacation when you have to go, when you're on the go all the time.
Yeah, we travel all the time anyway, in different countries.
Yeah, doesn't even know how to answer the question. Here's another one. This guy interviews him.
How's were you?
Not on tour. I get afraid of, I don't know people. I get afraid of people sometimes.
He says, I get afraid of people sometimes.
It's a whole nother life. I haven't really experienced that. Like friendship is the thing I'm just beginning to learn about.
Friendship is the thing I'm just beginning to learn about.
I was raised on the stage, and that's where.
I was raised on the stage.
I'm comfortable.
That's where I'm comfortable.
And everything else is like foreign to me.
Everything else is foreign to me.
Beginning to know and learn about people, friendship.
I'm just now beginning to know and learn about friendship. How old do you think he is here? What, 18, 19, 20? This looks like it probably happened right around the time that Pepsi, right before the Pepsi thing.
Who are your real friends?
Who are your real friends? What's what his answer is to this?
I love our fans.
I love my fans. Michael Jackson, when asked who his friends are, said his fans.
Everyone who buys our records.
Everyone who buys my record.
I put my heart in my work, and I appreciate the fact that they enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, just close personal friends. You got close personal friends?
You have close personal friends?
Quincy Jones is a friend.
Quincy Jones was his manager.
There's a few others.
They're all in show business?
Jane Fonda's a good friend.
Jane Fonda.
Dinah Ross.
Yeah. Dinah Ross.
Very dear friend, Dinah Ross.
I knew that you were going to be a giant star. I really did.
Think about that for a minute. Look at the age difference, by the way, there. And he looked dumbfounded when asked about who his friends were. Now, people have asked him, like, the motivation of what happened with Michael. I don't know if I won't get too far into that, because this is just all to talk about the fact that I don't know how many people understand that there was never any evidence produced against Michael Jackson. The man was never convicted of a crime. I mean, but to watch people like Trisha Paytas have the snicker and say, well, I was a girl and all the kids and all that, it pisses me off, because this man made a retreat for kids. He helped Make-A-Wish Foundation. He paid for a kid, I believe he was in Brazil, that needed a liver transplant. He paid thousands of dollars and saved that kid's life. He did all kinds of stuff like that, and never not once did what Trisha did, which is out here acting like she needs a pat on the back. He did all that and never told anyone.
I'm not supposed to say what I'm going to say.
To me, here's a motive, though I talked about Sony earlier.
I have to let you in on a secret.
Say it.
So, please don't videotape what I'm going to say, okay? Turn that off, please.
Don't worry, he says okay.
No, I don't mind. Tape it.
Michael is getting gangster today!
Sony, being the artist that I am, at Sony, I've generated several $1 billion for Sony. Several billion.
This generated several $1 billion. Because of, like I told you before, make sure I state it correctly, he owned half of Sony Music Publishing. He owned the rights to the Beatles music. Who do you think might have an interest in wanting that back? Because I'm going to tell you, right after Michael Jackson died, Sony Records paid $750 million for his portion of Sony Music Publishing, bought it off his family. First thing. The damn dirt didn't settle on his grave before they were making sure to get that back.
And I'm leaving them, and they're very angry at me because of
Notice he said he's leaving them, so he's no longer going to allow them to manage him, although he's still going to own all these rights and publishing. So
I just did good business,
He whipped Paul McCartney on that business.
So this is
bought the Beatles songs right out from under McCartney. McCartney hesitated, and Michael bought 251 Beatles songs. He owns them now. McCartney
owned 251 Beatles songs. And this is Brooke Shields. I don't know how many of you know that Brooke Shields was like one of Michael Jackson's like really close friends when he was younger, and she talks about again, these are people that were close to him. I'm just let her use her own
talented. And there was an Arrested Development, I believe. And he was sort of truncated emotionally as a little kid. And
he was a child?
He was truncated emotionally as a little kid. He was
childlike, but in many ways.
And we were kids together. I think that there was an Arrested Development to a certain extent with him in that way, but we acted like little kids together, and I don't think either one of us in our lives really had the environment to do that safely.
I mean, he's a very soft sort of voice, and he says, "Oh, Brooke, I'm sorry." I mean, he's always so happy to talk to you, and he wants to know what you're doing, but he's very actually there is no but. There's just a very genuine innocence that he has, that he is protected and sheltered himself from so much that's been maintained.
He has an innocence about him that just enables him to revel in flowers and children and animals. And he's just, I mean, he talks about his work a little bit, but he really just talks about things that make him happy. I mean, we
And then I'm going to show you her feelings about his father. This is what she said candidly about being invited.
Said, "I want you to speak because I mom who
this was
with him for
this is being invited to the memorial, and his mother calling asked her to speak. That's how close they were.
Time to his memorial, I had been really out of the public eye with him for a decade at least, and it was his mom who called me and said, "I want you to speak." Because I really thought, this is going to be a cartoon. I'm not going to have it. I'm not going to be invited. I never liked the dad. The dad never liked me.
Why not?
He's not a human being. He's the devil.
Those are not light words. She calls Michael Jackson's father not a human being, and said, "How do you think she could conjure up saying this man is the devil?" She was very close to Michael Jackson. Do you think he confided in her about what some of the atrocities this man had done to him? And then you wonder how Michael Jackson maybe had kept a childlike mentality and wanted him to make little kids happy.
Me.
Why not?
He's not a human being. He's the devil. And you just look in his eyes and listen, maybe you kind of look back and you think, regrets. I mean, his mom was so lovely and he loved her, but I do feel like it was unnecessary, unkind. He wasn't kind.
Did you speak to him at the funeral?
He wasn't kind.
I did. I had a couple cocktails and I went over to him. I don't know what possessed me. I went over to him and I said, "You know what? You never liked me. You never even pretended to like me. I never liked you. You always were mean." And I said, "You know what? I'm going to tell you? I'm going to thank you for your son."
Said that to him at the funeral. Think about that for a minute. I mean, that's some real strong feelings to have with someone. And now this is where I'm going to get into Rageaholic. Okay, he's very blunt. I appreciate it in a way about his coverage. This is, and I feel like I'm good with sharing that. This is 5 years old, by the way. I would link it, but I'm always scared people just won't go watch it. I'm pretty much going to let this play through. This man does a fantastic job of highlighting what happened in MJ's life and what happened with these lawsuits. By the way, I'm going to highlight here. If someone has done something to physically assault you, right? If you've a victim of SA or R or M, and you go and file a civil suit versus a criminal charge, right? File charges against them criminally versus civil. Do you know the difference? A criminal case won't get you any money. A civil case will. You can sue for damages. So you tell me why a motivation would be to have someone you're saying abused you, but you never go file a criminal charge, but you're quick to file a civil suit. And so and I know this is started out with Trisha, and I've been doing a lot of Trisha, but this is the thing I told you guys that has been bothering me that I've been working on, because I think this is so important. I don't know how many people realize what was done to Michael Jackson for so many years, and how the media and a charge of SA, people just saying he's SA'd them. And by the way, evidence didn't matter. The lack of evidence was not a big deal. They didn't care apparently about evidence, but it ruined a man's life. And when you're talking about someone as big as Michael Jackson, you tell me what it is to do to say it to a teacher that when you don't have any evidence. And these two men have something in common. Both of them are dead. Both of them can't speak for themselves at this point. And in there lies my problem.
Look at how Michael Jackson behaved when it was actually time for him to break the law.
Back this up a little bit.
In my Music Mythos episode devoted to Michael Jackson, I made it emphatically known that I do not believe he was ever a pedophile.
Look at how Michael Jackson behaved when it was actually time for him to break the law. When he wanted to illegally anesthetize himself with propofol, he found Conrad Murray, a doctor with financial problems and a checkered past. In short, someone he could manipulate, someone he had leverage on, successfully covering his tracks quite literally until after his death in fear of the minor fine and possible community service sentence that would result from being convicted of such. But the Chandler and Arvizo families want us all to believe that when it came time for Michael Jackson to deflower a child, a crime that could put him away for the remainder of his life and ruin his entire career in the process, his master plan boiled down to, hey, hop on the bed in full view of your brother and we'll jerk each other off. I submit that given Michael's provable tactical acumen, not to mention financial resources, if he ever actually had diddled a kid, we wouldn't have ever heard one mumbling fucking word about it. The fact that there even was a trial is to me almost proof enough that Michael Jackson never inappropriately laid a hand on a kid in his life.
I asserted my reasons effectively, I feel, but the time constraints involved also, I felt, made my rebuttal a cursory one by nature. I'd always intended to append those thoughts with something more in-depth and comprehensive at a later date, and then, just this past week, the story broke, providing me with just such an opportunity. Look, you've been forewarned. Today's video is not primarily comedic in nature, but rather a categorical defense of Michael Jackson, a man no longer alive to defend himself. I would first, to that end, like to extend my condolences to the family of Michael Jackson, most specifically his children, who through no fault of their own or their father's have been made to endure an onslaught of idiocy based on laughable evidence and thanks to a remorseless media with an axe to grind, one that simply will not die. You're not alone. Pun only slightly intended. Some of us do know the facts, and your father's innocence, once you look at those facts, is immutable. Never weaken. We're with you in spirit, and Godspeed. I would be further remiss not to acknowledge attorney Tom Mesereau's tireless advocacy of Michael Jackson's innocence. It's easy to assume a celebrity defense attorney is merely in it for the Skrilla, and Tom has certainly made his. But the fact that Mr. Mesereau hasn't been employed by Jackson or his estate since 2005, yet never misses an opportunity to publicly articulate the case for his innocence in exhaustive detail more than a decade hence, is proof to me that his stance is more about principle than payola. I'm unashamed to admit that it's precisely through the promulgative efforts of Mr. Mesereau that I was first exposed to some of the more pertinent exculpatory evidence you will now be treated to. For further information on this topic, if you're interested, I cannot recommend his lectures, interviews, and writings vociferously enough.
Basically saying that an attorney who wasn't even representing him, that knew Michael back in the day, had in his earlier life, has adamantly defended him without making a penny. Just so we're aware.
Now, before we move on with the body of today's rebuttal, we have to address and I employ the loosest possible interpretation of the word here, allegations that broke this past week, contending that during 2003's raid of Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch, a veritable deluge of pedo porn, some of it violent and even bestial in nature, was recovered in the process. To quote Winston Churchill, a lie gets halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to get its pants on. And true to form, before anyone had seen fit to vet this story and verify that it conforms to the facts long since committed to public record, Lord, everyone from Jezebel.com to Breitbart News to the Huffington Post hit us with a hailstorm of horse shit. I'm not going to linger on this over much because the story's less than a week old and its efficacy has already begun to erode before our very eyes. But even a perfunctory glance at the evidence in the 2005 case reveals this to be bullshit squared. As FBI and court documents clearly show, the only article the prosecution could even vaguely construe as pedophilic was a coffee table book of art photography featuring fair-haired foundlings frolicking the fuck through dewy meadows, swimming in lakes, and other assorted stand-by-me shit. It's not only not pornographic, it's an art photography bestseller. Pretty much any asshat with a black turtleneck and a Nikon owns one. If that constitutes kiddie porn, well, you better lock up that Michelangelo prick because the Sistine Chapel is a palace of pedophilia. Hell, at a certain point in the trial, the prosecution were so desperate for viable evidence, they tried to attach a Hustler magazine recovered from Michael's home with Gavin Arvizo, the 2003 accuser. His fingerprints, they argued, were found on the magazine. The problem? His fingerprints were on the magazine because the prosecution had taken it out of its protective bag and handed the fuck to Gavin Arvizo during pre-trial interviews.
The 3 felonies that I observed firsthand and have firsthand.
And now imagine that some of the evidence they used, they took out of an evidence bag and hand it to the person they later claimed the fingerprints were on, and watch this man try to bring it up, and then they shut him down.
Fingerprint evidence, fabrication. The magazine had not been printed till 4, 5, 6 months after the.
I'm sorry, Mr. Wagner, your time is up.
And it was all captured on tape. You mean to tell me the prosecution were scraping the bottom of the evidentiary barrel so exquisitely goddamn hard that they went so far as to tamper with state's evidence, nearly inciting a retrial in the process, but they gave a mountain of kiddie torture porn a pass? Yes, seems fucking legit, Review Tech USA. Not that I expect sexual discernment from a baggy-eyed beluga so improbably fucking fat he couldn't pick his own cock out of a fucking lineup. Why don't you confine yourself to what you stick to best? E-drama, pedestrian opinions, and your own goddamn computer chair. You want to talk red flags and common sense, you diabetic golem? How about the red flag of none of this shit being entered into evidence? So no, I don't believe Michael Jackson was a pedophile, and I've made that determination based entirely on empirical fact, mind you. Something this story, originally leaked by inveterate tabloid Radar Online, did not traffic in whatsoever. Not one article of evidence, not one witness statement, a leaked video of the Neverland raid itself that does not show the recovery of one item of pornography, straight, gay, or otherwise, and what little horseshit and hearsay it does proffer is contradicted by publicly available FBI and Santa Maria court documents that make not one solitary mention of any cow-fucking kitty porn having been recovered from Neverland Ranch. Hell, even the article in question links to another horrifically sourced article of an interview with one of Michael Jackson's many hush-hush girlfriends, in which she says in no uncertain terms that he didn't own child porn, boned bitches like it was going out of style, and emphatically states that he did not fuck kids. Not only does the evidence contradict the story, the fucking story contradicts the story. Breitbart, Jezebel, Huffington Post, and most importantly, Radar Online, you now have exactly one job. Either corroborate your claims with substantive evidence, or retract this defamatory dog shit fucking yesterday. The man is dead. He's dead largely because of his inability to deal with the unceasing barrage of bullshit, unsourced, appropriate.
And this is why I'm playing you this guy. He has delivered the evidence, the lack thereof. And this is what I appreciate. I wish more people would take the time to do it.
Tripe like this, and if no one else is going to speak up in his defense, then fuck you, I'll erect a finger and do it myself. And with that, we move on to the rebuttal at large. Whereas, depending on who you ask, descriptions of the 2005 Arvizo molestation case can vacillate from he was guilty but they just couldn't prove it, to railroad job to the umpteenth power, and embarrassment to the legal profession at large. Public sentiment for the original allegations in '93 are about as mixed as the Aryan youth. As such, in preparing this comprehensive rebuttal of the recent spurious allegations that Michael Jackson owned gruesome child pornography, I came to one sobering realization, folks. Categorically obliterating these accusations would be impossible without focusing almost exclusively on the 1993 accuser that for some ludicrous reason everyone still largely believes in fact was molested. His name? Jordan Chandler, but sadly as we roll the fuck on here, I think you'll see the child was really a secondary accessory to a successful extortion attempt by another man, one who committed suicide just months after Jackson's death by the name of Evan Chandler. While some overzealous Jackson fans have ascribed motive to the suicide, claiming he was awash with guilt, the man left no suicide note I'm aware of, so to hypothesize as to his mental state beyond being in profoundly poor taste would be an exercise in futility. And given that rampant speculation without proof is what largely got Michael Jackson in this position to begin with, I would hope his fan base would recognize the perils of perpetrating the very same against his extortionist. And make no mistake, Evan Chandler was an extortionist.
This man is going to be humiliated beyond belief. He will not believe it. He will not believe what's going to happen to him. Beyond his worst nightmares. So one more record.
Understand what this man is saying. He is trying to suggest that MJ did something atrocious to his son, and this is how he's addressing it. He won't sell one more record. He won't unless I get what I want. That sounds like a parent that feels like there's a predator that was out to get their kid, huh? Or it sounds like they found a billionaire they're going to try and extract money out of. They don't give a shit about the truth.
If I go through with this, I win big time. I will get everything I want. They will be destroyed forever.
That phone call is from after Jordan Chandler was allegedly molested. Yet not one word about his son having been victimized, despite the fact that theoretically the wound would have still been fresh at that point. Instead of an indignant father, we get a rather callous, cold, and calculating assertion of Evan Chandler's plan to destroy Michael Jackson if he doesn't get, quote, what he wants. And what he wanted, folks, was Hollywood success. Evan Chandler, you see, was a dentist by trade, one with a pattern of behavior showing he had a tendency to latch on to famous figures and leech him fucking dry. A chance encounter with Mel Brooks, one we're still not certain wasn't engineered as a favor for Michael Jackson, would lead to Evan Chandler being the screenwriter and co-producer of Robin Hood Men in Tights. But as Michael's favors began to dry up, so did Evan Chandler's affection for the King of Pop. An adversarial relationship, one that mirrored in many respects Michael's own struggle with his domineering father, developed, that led the divorce-afflicted Chandler child to turn to Michael Jackson for comfort and companionship in lieu of his biological parents. Then Evan Chandler hooked up with prosecuting attorney Larry Feldman, whose moral repute, to put it bluntly, falls somewhere between Johnny Cochran and Snidely Whiplash. And I note that many people fond of employing the term red flags in connection with Michael Jackson's interest in children fall mysteriously goddamn silent when it's pointed out that Larry Feldman consulted in both the 1993 molestation case and the 2005 case with Gavin Arvizo. That's right, both cases involve the same limber dick fucking lawyer. Motherfucker, there ain't a flag big enough or a color red enough to convey the conflict of interest there. But hey, at least the same vindictive ass district attorney pushed both cases despite a dearth of evidence and a surfeit of hearsay. Otherwise, I might actually think there was a fucking professional vendetta at play or something. Then Evan Chandler, a dentist by trade, hooked up with Jordan's stepfather, the co-conspirator recorded on a phone call I just played earlier, and scheduled an impromptu dental exam with his son.
There was a great article in GQ done by a journalist named Mary Fisher, and she went back and she had proof that Evan Chandler, this man who just committed suicide, and the current husband of his wife then, the stepfather, had conspired to create this situation, and that they actually drugged the kid in the dentist's office and got him to say things that weren't true about Michael.
That's right, the original confession was elicited while Jordan Chandler was under the influence of laughing gas. Look, we will never know exactly what occurred in that dentist chair, but if you're arguing that the existence of a leading question or 17 or even outright suggestion is an Olympian leap of logic here, you are far more trusting soul than I, my friend, particularly given the menacing tone of the recorded phone calls in question. For all the talk of Neverland Ranch's creepy pedophilic undertones by the flopping flaccid dickheads in the tabloid media, it should interest you to discover that the 1993 accuser never claimed to have been molested at Neverland. He claimed rather that he was molested in Monaco. What you're about to watch is a clip from an indescribably biased documentary from 2007, rife with factual inaccuracies, whose entire premise is that Michael Jackson was a pedophile. But what it does function as is a bit of a primer for the accusations themselves, so take what you're about to watch with a grain of bullshit.
The honeymoon with Jordy Chandler in Monaco was interesting on several levels because they traveled there for the awards ceremony, the World Music Awards, but he took not only Jordy Chandler, but his mother and his sister. In very typical fashion, he gave the mother a credit card and said, go shopping. It was just Jordy and Michael in that room.
Only Michael Jackson and Jordy can ever really know what happened in that room. But all we know for sure is that while the awards ceremony continued, Jackson and Jordy remained in the suite.
Having now absorbed that cyclopean dollop of disinformation, briefly plant yourself in Chester Molester's pedopumps. You're Michael Jackson, a provably shrewd, calculating individual. You learned the moonwalk in the late 70s, yet waited nearly 5 years to break it the fuck out at Motown 25 for precisely the right moment to catapult you to superstardom. Through raw business acumen and cunning, you now own the 2 most remunerative musical catalogs in existence outside your fucking own, purchasing half of Sony Music Publishing in the process. While you may not be a pedophile, you've certainly committed lesser crimes in the past. Doctor shopping, illicit and prescription drug addiction, yet you were so adept at crossing every T and dotting every I that not even your wife knew you may have a problem until you outright collapsed on stage.
Did you suspect a drug problem?
Honestly, I didn't really suspect and catch on until just before I filed for divorce. You know, there was just an occasion, an incident where he had collapsed and he was in the hospital.
This is during the HBO.
This was an appearance he was supposed to make.
And now it's time to apply that canny tactical acuity. You want to butt fuck a kid. You have a choice of time and location. A cavernous sprawl.
And this is why I set my like these certain uploads to not children friendly. Just so you know, I told you, I warned you. He's called Rageaholic for a reason. Yes, his language is listen, I've dropped plenty of F-bombs on here, so hopefully the language isn't something that's going to turn all you off. He just is who he is.
Sprawling Neverland estate with countless winding corridors and cozy hidden rooms and compartments away from prying eyes, replete with security guards, a silent alarm system, and a secret fireplace exit?
I was in his room of accomplishments looking at his platinums, and then I turned around and I seen a chess set. It was platinum and gold. And I did not know because I thought I came in the one door, which is the only way in and the only way out. But didn't know that he had a secret door from the fireplace that was a fake fireplace. Wow. It was a door. He came in that door, and it's so quiet. I thought, you know, when you hear doors, you hear no sound. So he came behind me and put his hand on my shoulder, and I fell to my feet. He started busting out laughing at me.
Or a 5-star European hotel you've been photographed at with the child while a bodyguard is present and while suffering from the fucking flu.
So why did no one stop him? Not the police, not Jordy's mother, and not Jackson's manager.
On the suite of the awards, Jordy and Michael were in there with flu.
I got the doctor to come. They said they had the flu, so to get a doctor. And the mother and daughter went out shopping to Italy, and they were in the suite with the flu.
I don't know know about you, but nothing brings my apathetic crank to full fucking attention like nasal phlegm and 100-degree fevers. I mean, if Michael had been so inclined, and he wasn't, folks, he basically had a ready-made pedo chateau at Neverland, and the Chandlers want us all to believe he decided to bone the kid on foreign soil in the completely uncontrollable environs of the World Music Awards in Monaco while they were both miserably ill, and not one fucking day after Michael Jackson was photographed with the accuser and his sister bouncing on his butt fucking lap. It more than strains credulity, people. It obliterates it, annihilates it, bends it over the mantle and spanks it harder than a porn star with daddy issues. Oh, into the walking pair of crow's feet in the documentary flapping her spray tan jowls about Michael bouncing Jordan Chandler up and down on his lap.
He was bouncing Jordy up and down on his lap. His nickname for the boy was Rubba. Whispering, Rubba, Rubba.
Yeah, well, unless Jordan Chandler got a JonBenet makeover, that appears to be his sister bouncing up and down on Michael's lap. And so long as we're correcting flagrant factual errors, Bob Jones was never Michael Jackson's manager. He was a fucking publicist. Yet this documentary aired with this ceaseless procession of screaming circumstantial inaccuracies, uncut from the broadcast, with nary a toffee-nosed twat at Channel 4 in the UK so much as raising a bushy brow at something publicly available footage proves was a bald-faced fucking lie. Are you beginning to better understand the daisy chain of disinformation plucked from the tabloid press playbook in effect wherever Michael Jackson is concerned? The reasons for this coverage, however, have never been mysterious.
When I came to New York and asked them I told them I wanted to publish a book that was going to talk about Michael Jackson not guilty, they said, we don't want anything that's pro-Jackson. And I actually called even one of the publishers that I've worked with for many years and spoke to the top person there. And she said, Aphrodite, I'm sorry, we can't do anything pro-Jackson. And I thought, this is wild. So in other words, the publishing world has decided that there will be nothing pro-Jackson, even though a courtroom has exonerated this man.
The media.
Now, think about that for a minute. If you don't believe that the corporate media, and I'm going to argue some cases that some of these like drama channels and YouTube has become just as abhorrent as the mainstream media, where they get into this dogma thinking. Like, I don't know, it's weird to me. I'll have to think more on that one. But again, it's not good for them. They're trying to sell something, so they want to push a certain agenda.
Worldwide, we're out to get Michael Jackson. The money was in a conviction. Okay? Barry Gordy, who founded Motown, told me after the acquittals that you cost the worldwide media billions by those not guilty verdicts, because the kind of copy that his being convicted, remanded to jail, the build-up to a sentencing, which would have been the biggest sentencing in world history, was something they wanted. You know, this was big, big business. They were doing everything they could to spin a conviction.
No one said, oh my goodness, we're sorry. We reported all the wrong things. Let's make the record straight now. No. In fact, they ignored the not guilty verdicts, and the paparazzi went right into, oh, we think he might have molested another boy, or wow, somebody else came out of the woodwork. All these things were later found to be untrue, but they make great headlines on the cover of rag papers and sell tabloids.
The media has a habit of building its heroes, all but erecting monuments to their splendor, harvesting a monetary windfall from their rise, and then, often at a perfectly arbitrary point of their choosing, they take a sledgehammer to the very same, profiting by their Pompeian downfall thereby. From the great Britney Spears parasol rampage of 2007 to the Amanda Bynes batshit barrage, the only thing the media loves more than an idol is a fallen one. And for those arguing that the presence of the aforementioned alarm system is a portent to pedophilia, consider for a moment how deeply paranoid Michael Jackson had become by this point. Michael confided to everyone from friends to his then-wife Lisa Marie Presley that he believed Sony were actively trying to have him assassinated for half of his ownership in the company.
And then the final part of the conversation was him telling me that he felt that that someone was going to try and kill him to get a hold of his catalog and his estate. and I really didn't know what to do with that.
Something that, given the Japanese vultures picking the King of Pop's corpse clean in the aftermath, is looking less and less paranoid by the microsecond. As Lisa Marie and Jackson family members have alleged, he also engaged in illicit drug use during this period, largely stemming from serious burns he sustained during a Pepsi commercial in the 1980s. We just listened to Teddy Riley describe a platinum chess set in his duplex-sized bedroom. Are you honestly contending that a silent alarm system and a secret entrance is not a fairly mild expression of the King of Pop's proven paranoia? But what of the sleeping with young boys allegations? Well, let's place this once again in its appropriate context. The prosecution never said Michael sleeps in the same bed as young boys, although that in and itself wouldn't connote pedophilia either. They said he sleeps in the same room as young boys. The problem? Michael Jackson's bedroom was the size of a fucking duplex!
Well, first of all, Larry, this notion that he sleeps with boys was a concoction by the prosecution. What he said very openly was that he allows families into his room. Now, his room is the size of a duplex. It's 2 levels. He's had mothers sleep there, fathers sleep there, sisters sleep there, brothers sleep there. The prosecution concocted this little saying about sleeping with boys because they thought it would turn off the jury, and they failed.
Look, saying Michael Jackson sleeps in the same room as boys is like saying I slept in the same room as my dad growing up because we were all in the same house. This is not uncommon in people who purchase mansions, by the by. To isolate one section of the estate off to yourself and essentially live out of that exclusively, rarely if ever venturing to any other rooms in the mansion aside from special occasions. This harkens back to the Paleolithic underpinnings of our cave-dwelling ancestors. Roman columns are bitchin' and all, but all the human brain really wants at the end of the day is a nice cozy cave replete with meat and heat. So yeah, boys slept in Michael Jackson's 2-story fucking room. So did their parents. So did entire fucking families when they were staying there. But if there's one cause for skepticism where Michael's innocence is concerned that I can actually relate to, it's with the decision to settle the Jordan Chandler case out of court for a reputed $20 million. So why in the fuck did Michael Jackson pay $20 million to cover up a crime I and many other reasonable human beings thoroughly believe he never committed?
Mr. Jackson had entered into that settlement because business advisors told him to. They weren't writing the check. They wanted to get him to get going in his business life and stop being derailed by this very salacious legal proceeding, and that he regretted doing it.
It's interesting because that settlement money, which is around the ballpark of $20 million, is something that never leaves people's minds. It seems as though that will always continue to be a controversial aspect in the legacy of Michael Jackson.
Well, remember, he was a billionaire. This person had money-making opportunities around the world that were endless. This was someone who could wake up in the morning, decide to go to any capital in the world, and make millions of dollars if he wanted to. So the amount of money he paid was nothing compared to what he was worth and what he could earn. And the people around him said, Michael, write the check, get rid of the case, let's move on. We have so many business opportunities everywhere, on every continent, and that's what he did. And it came back to haunt him, unfortunately. I think it was the wrong advice. I think he should have fought it and won.
The media is more than willing to tell us all that Michael Jackson paid out $20 million to Jordan Chandler and $1 million apiece to his parents. What they seem almost habitually unwilling to provide is fucking context for that act. You see, the Chandlers, acting on advice from their shyster shitbag Larry Feldman, deliberately waited to level charges for several months until Michael Jackson had begun his tour for the Dangerous album. The tour was split up into 2 legs with a brief respite for recuperation in between, and this was no fucking accident. What this did is immediately press Michael Jackson toward a very difficult no-win choice. Either fight the allegations in court, canceling the second leg of his first major tour under the Sony banner, pissing off both his record company, concert promoter, lawyers, and fans in the process, and engaging in a trial that, while I'm firmly convinced would have cleared him ultimately of wrongdoing, would have also been a deeply dehumanizing and embarrassing one for the self-conscious pop star regardless. Why dehumanizing and embarrassing, you ask? Well, anyone like myself in their late 20s, early 30s remembers the following newsreel footage with crystal fucking clarity.
I have been forced to submit to a dehumanizing and humiliating examination by the Santa Barbara County Sheriff Department and the Los Angeles Police Department earlier this week. They served a search warrant on me which allowed them to view and photograph my body, including my penis, my buttocks, my lower torso, thighs, and any other area that they wanted. They were supposedly looking for any discoloration, spotting, blotches, or other evidence of a skin color disorder called vitiligo, which I have previously spoken about.
So the police took PP Polaroids of one of the most self-conscious and insecure individuals on planet Earth and threatened to pass them around a courtroom in an effort to determine whether the accuser had correctly identified Jackos Johnson. Incidentally, he didn't. How do we know this? Because the Chandler family, during the pre-trial phase, purposefully omitted them from evidence, without, of course, informing Michael Jackson, who at this point was already being pressured to settle by everyone from Sony, with whom he just inked the most lucrative recording contract in history, and who fully expected a return on said investment, the concert promoters for his first major tour in support of Dangerous, and as Jackson's attorney during the 2005 case has since confirmed, his settlement-happy legal team as fucking well.
And Howard Weitzman have always acted in what they believed were Michael Jackson's best interests. And I believe that they thought those settlements were the best result for Michael, that they wanted to keep him out of a courtroom and let him do his music and his performance art, get him away from the lawyers. I understand that completely. Unfortunately, I think the decision to settle those cases was a disaster. And I think the settlements opened Pandora's box and resulted in his criminal case in 2004, 2005, as well as the current Wade Robson, Jimmy Safechuck civil cases, where they changed their opinions about what happened. They appear to have completely changed their memory of the facts and are seeking money. I don't have great faith that Mr. Weitzman and Mr. Branco will try these cases effectively in front of a judge or jury. My guess is that if a judge does not throw these cases out, that there'll be a settlement and that money will be paid by the estate. I hope that doesn't happen, but my guess is that Mr. Branca and Mr. Weitzman do not want and defend. That's my guess. I don't know. I'm not in their minds. This case go to a public trial, and unfortunately, Robson and Safechuck's lawyers know that. They know they're being opposed by some lawyers with a history of being involved with Michael Jackson when he settled cases.
So if he goes to trial, sure, MJ would have been cleared. As we've already established, the evidence against him was laughable. It literally did not exist. In fact, we know this evidence is weak because much of it was used in the 2005 case and was promptly laughed the fuck out of court.
Anyone who followed the case knew about the issue of 1108 evidence, which in California is called prior bad acts evidence. And what California allows, and few states do allow, is that in a case like this, you can bring in evidence of other alleged similar acts, even if they were never charged with a crime, and even if they're not the essence of the charge in this particular case. So what they said in their opening statement was, we have evidence that 5 young men were molested, and we're going to present all of that to you. And to make it even worse, it appeared, the judge did something I've never seen happen in a case like this. With respect to 3 of those alleged 5 victims, he allowed witnesses to come in and say they saw them molested without the prosecution having to bring the actual alleged victims in. They put on 3 guards who had worked at Neverland to say they saw these 3 people molested. One of them, Macaulay Culkin, okay, the actor, all right? Now, those 3 guards had sued Michael Jackson, claiming that he wrongfully terminated them. He had cross-complained, saying that they had stolen property from him. It was the longest civil trial in the history of Santa Maria. They lost their case. Jackson won his cross-complaint. He had $1 million judgment against all of them. There were judicial findings of fraud against all of them. They had gone to the tabloids and sold stories, and the 3 people they say they saw molested, they were my first 3 witnesses. They came in and said they were never touched.
So your options: fight, lose hundreds of millions, canceling your first Sony World Tour, actively defy the legal advice of your attorney.
And I'm sorry I'm not talking much during this video. It's just, I don't need to. I mean, he's providing all the evidence. And this is all I want, is I want you guys to hear it.
Attorneys and insurance company, engage in a court case where you have every reason to believe your vitiligo-afflicted genitals will be made a public spectacle, or the other option was to settle, for $20 million. A lot to you and me, but to Michael Jackson, who at that time owned half of Sony's music publishing, is a water molecule in a drop in a bucket in a fucking ocean. Then continue on tour, make that money back in a single fucking night, and everyone from Sony to the concert promoter to all the people he employs during said tour go home happy, and his dong ain't dangling in front of a jury, in all likelihood half the slack-jawed goddamn nation in the process. I agree, it was a stupid decision. Incidentally, by the end, so did Michael. But it doesn't make him a pedophile. It makes him a deeply non-confrontational cat being pressured from all sides by disparate multi-million-dollar conglomerates who stood to lose a fuck of a lot of money, but whose self-respect and reputation were left mercifully off the chopping block in the process, while Michael was left to twist in the wind, as if I needed another reason to hate the shit out of Sony. In the aftermath, Jordan Chandler was actually emancipated from both of his parents, took his money, fucked off to the Hollywood Hills, and never spoke to them again. He was given a chance to testify in the 2005 case, incidentally, but when he saw how easily the other witnesses crumbled under cross-examination...
I have to tell you, I've never seen so many witnesses provide so much salacious, disturbing testimony, and I've never seen so many witnesses crumble so quickly under cross-examination. I'll probably never see it again. I mean, it almost became a circus. People would get on that stand and say they'd seen the most horrific things on the planet. There would be just a heavy atmosphere in the courtroom, so you could almost cut the silence with a knife after they were finished. And on cross-examination, they would just splatter.
He conveniently decided not to show. Curious tactics if you're convinced Michael Jackson is a hardened pedophile. Michael Jackson did not fuck kids. It does not conform to logic. It does not conform to the facts. This fiction persists in full view of contradictory timetable evidence, and when brought before a jury in 2005, as much of the evidence from 1993 was, Michael was not only exonerated, but in a trial scheduled for between 6 to 8 months, he was acquitted in less than 5. He didn't barely scrape on by, he was vindicated fucking resoundingly. And as for the so-called additional accusers, you may be interested to note that they were all disproven, categorically, in court. In 2005, due to the aforementioned ludicrous legal statute in California permitting evidence of prior acts, often through third-party hearsay, as such, the prosecution made a miserable attempt to pin Michael to the molestation of 5 other boys.
We started our case with 3 of those 5 young men who they claim were molested, and they all said, "He never touched me." That's how we began our case, 3 of the 5. The 4th one never showed up, and if he had, I think we were armed pretty well to deal with him, and that's Larry Feldman's client. There are a lot of other issues that go into that case that I don't have time to talk about. But let's just say that I had a lot of information to go after him on, not to mention the profit motive. Why do you take money and not go to the police and prosecute? Particularly, you know, if you're a family member, do you prefer to take money instead of having police and prosecutors go after you criminally? What does that tell you about the situation? The 5th young man was a so-called youth pastor who claimed he'd been tickled by Michael Jackson outside of his genes and needed 5 years' worth of therapy to deal with his trauma. And by the way, he wanted millions of dollars, his mother wanted it, and his mother also sold story to the tabloids.
Now, if I'm into kitty fucking, am I crazy? Or is Macaulay Culkin in the early 90s not my Cindy Crawford? I mean, look at the kid. He's goddamn adorable. Or for that matter, a young Corey Feldman, at least one of whom was molested by powerful people in Hollywood and was not shy about admitting it.
I was surrounded by them when I was 14 years old. Surrounded. Literally. Didn't even know it. It wasn't until I was old enough to realize what they were and what they wanted and what they were about and the types of people that were surrounding me till I went, oh my God, they were everywhere like vultures.
Vultures who Feldman says abused him and his best friend, the late child actor Corey Haim.
Michael Jackson was a witch hunt, okay? Let me just say this. He was a guy who was so innocent, so kind of sheltered, you couldn't even swear around him. You couldn't talk about drugs. You couldn't talk about nude women. You couldn't talk about sex. You couldn't talk about anything.
And if a couple troglodytic pants-shitting bodyguards who were actively suing Michael Jackson for wrongful termination at the time and wound up not only losing, but found guilty of stealing from the King of Pop are considered credible witnesses as to Michael's sexuality, well, All right, accepting the batshit premise that security guard testimony is manna from heaven, let's talk to some goddamn bodyguards about Michael's sexuality.
Was he a pedophile?
No, we don't believe so. I don't believe so.
Not at all.
Being a father myself and being a man, men know men. He had the desires of women like we do.
In fact, they say he had at least 2 girlfriends, dispelling that other rumor.
We had a curtain that covered the back seat. You couldn't see in the back seat. They talked back there, and, you know.
So he's making out in the back seat?
Or chewing loud gum.
In talking to L.A. Reid and in talking to Teddy Riley, guys who spent a lot of time with him, they both told me stories about these women in the studio. Okay, I mean, it's an interesting thing. I was, you know, everyone has their perceptions of what Michael was about. But I tell you what, L.A. Reid is a guy I know very well. I know Teddy Riley very well. These are very straight guys. And they're telling me that Michael had fine-ass women in the studio hanging out with him. I believe them. So it's interesting that there's this whole narrative about Michael as a heterosexual male, hanging out with guys I know who were very heterosexual male. But it's something interesting. He himself would never consciously, publicly, it was like he had this interesting thing.
So, that's your foolproof 1993 molestation case, folks. The one every blathering asshat in the country seems to believe was accurate. Not so much ironclad as tin-plated, isn't it? If you buy that shit as airtight, I got a Swiss cheese submarine I think you might be interested in. And one last parting shot for review tech. Hey, Richie boy, know what's even better than common sense? Fucking research! Razor fist, out!
And again, that's what I appreciate about him, is that he does do his research. I think it's so important. Again, for you know, if you have the court documents, which they're there, I've looked at some of them. He actually did a lot of this research. I trust him. There's actually 2 other parts, and if you guys, because he actually came back 3 years later. This one was shot 2016. Oh, by the way, shout out to him. There's his channel. 2016. He did another one like in 2019. I mean, I think he has them down here. Yeah, part 2 and 3. And if you would like to see those, I have no problem, you know, going over them and showing them to you guys, although you can go watch them on his channel. But it blows my mind at how many people will still say derogatory things about MJ, like there's no question this man was hurting kids. And again, there has to be something said about evidence. If there's not any, again, I don't know if I planned the video where they literally went into into Neverland and with drills broke into every single one of this man's safes. If you think if there wasn't something to find in Neverland, they would have found it. And how many kids came in out of that place? I mean, you would think that he would maybe found a kid's pair of underwear in a corner somewhere. You don't think that would have been splashed all over the freaking media? So, again, this is thanks to Trisha, because that one TikTok video she did where she brought up Michael and then made those little digs at the end. Oh, you know, no, nothing sexual happened. I'm a girl. Like, you know, that stupid fucking did. I mean, again, see, that's what pisses me off. Like, how dare you, you know, the trash factory, the person that has had their rise to success by being a nasty person, allow someone's name like Michael Jackson to roll off her tongue in some derogatory fashion, like she has any right to say anything negative about that. Because again, this is someone that did that TikTok video showed you where she's talking about, oh, I loved him. I was so upset. First, it was she was upset in London because she never got to meet him. She had to stay holed up in their hotel. Then it was all of a sudden, oh, she got to meet him and take a picture with him. Then it was, oh, she went out, she just camped outside of Neverland Ranch in the hopes to get a glimpse of him. Then the next one was, oh, yes, she camped outside Neverland Ranch. And Michael Jackson, Thriller, beat it, walked out to the front of his gate, went outside of it to go talk to Trisha Paytas with her father and invite her to come in. That's what rational people think. Really? I mean, really? I should bring up the damn Google images of Neverland, how far the freaking gate is from the actual house. How this video showed you how much security the guy had. I mean, with the security cameras and all that. But that sounds like somebody that would just meander on outside his damn fence to go talk to strangers. like the amount of Kool-Aid you have got to be drinking to buy any of this bullshit. This is why what brought, again, and I will say, I don't want to drag anybody here by name if I don't have to. I will say, however, another drama channel, because I'm learning all about drama channels, just so you know, if you can't imagine. And this is where my, I'm a little discouraged by some of the stuff that I've seen. I'm starting to form a thesis here where it does appear that a lot of them have this TMZ kind of look at situations where it's ironic that he brought up Britney Spears. Again, remember this video was done in 2016. And how many of those media outlets were so quick to judge her back in 2000. And when would Britney put in that conservatorship? I think all that started coming out, and she's been in it for, was it 12 years? I think it all started about 2008, 2009. And we're quick to jump on the drag Britney Spears and those papers. And yet, it couldn't be that she just lost it one day. The paparazzi followed her around like the plague. I mean, have you ever seen some of those videos where they're trying to leave somewhere in their car and they can't even see because the flashes from the cameras? How that's still not deemed as hazard to someone's safety by having flashing cameras shot up in your face while you're trying to drive? I don't know. But so she was berated by paparazzi like that every day. And they were quick to throw some article up about her, this or that, or that interview that Diane Sawyer did with her. She brought up her relationship with Justin Timberlake and insinuated that Britney Spears was some kind of tramp. Like, well, why did he leave you? What did you do to him? And all that shit. And that was perfectly acceptable back in the day because, it was for ratings. It's for views. It's the same thing that the news does today. I mean, again, I don't care how you feel. You are more than welcome to have your belief on how you think that your country, if you're not American, I'm American, if you freaking can't tell, but how policy should be structured. There's an argument to be made on all kinds of subject matter where it comes to immigration, healthcare, whatever. I'm not going to try to get into that here, really. I mean, that's because I want people to feel welcome from every part, of the aisle. People that focus on politics or don't, or religious or not, or whatever, because it's important to get the information out. But I am saying that it's kind of sad that so many people in the media, and if you don't think they're pushing it, I implore you to go watch a few clips, are trying to divide us. They are trying so heavily to divide us. Well, you should hate these people because these people stand for that, or you should hate those people because those people stand for that, or whatever. You know what? We can still be decent human beings and just disagree. It's the same thing they did to him, and I'm saying all that because the same thing they did to Michael Jackson. This man never had a childhood. This man was going around hospitals and giving thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to families with children that needed help, needed surgeries, or couldn't pay their hospital bills. He never asked for a camera to show up. He never asked for a news outlet to put him on the front page to highlight all the money he was given to these kids that needed him. He did it because he was a good, kind person. I mean, he gave because It was in him to want to do it. And can you, again, remember, this man never had a childhood, had a father that treated him more like a servant than a son. I mean, remember when he tried to even have children? Oh, he wouldn't have children, the right way. He wasn't doing the right thing for his kids, or da 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 da. None of these people lived in that man's house. None of these people even bothered to get to know him. So, did Trisha Paytas trigger this video? She sure the shit did, and she triggered it by the shit that she insinuated about Michael Jackson that I felt maybe was necessary to revisit after all these years, to make sure people understand how important it is if you're going to make a charge like SA or M or R, all the words I believe you should be able to say on YouTube. And I think if y'all out there have the means, that maybe we should email them and say, why are these certain words that you're not allowing to be said on your platform that's going to call out these predators, but you're allowing all these other words that, sexualize everything. Those are fine. But anyway, triggering it because I think, again, like I said, evidence is crucial. Is there certain cases? Listen, I'm sure there's certain cases where, he said, she said. Of course, that's going to happen. But I believe it says a lot for you if the first thing you do is call the cops and say something's happened. Or even if you can go back in history and a friend can testify for you that says, oh, she told me the day after, or her, whatever, it's in your diary, something that you can prove that it was dated back when it was. If you're going to come out 10 years later, when a person isn't around to defend themselves, or 20 years later, and you can even let's say we're going to do it, even say 10 facts, 10 things that you have said that happened in that situation, and you can easily disprove 8 of them. The other 2 you can't figure out because there's no way of disproving them, because again, it's your word against their word or whatever. But say the 8 quote facts that you stated were a lie, and you can prove they were a lie, you can prove this person was lying, then please tell me how you expect society to believe the other 2. Again, look at all the people that have remorse whenever they're convicted of a crime or they're caught by the police that time that they're caught. But the other 3 or 4 times they got away with it, where was that remorse? You would think the first time they did it, if there was more remorse, there would be a second or third or fourth or whatever. So let's factor all that into Miss, Queen Bee herself. If you have lied, provably 90% of the time, then please expect me how we're supposed to believe the other 10%, because there's no way to prove you wrong. It's just your word. Well, what is your word worth? What is a person's word worth if they don't have the reputation of telling the truth? I'm sorry, but I don't think it's okay to let someone sit there and try to ruin someone's life when we know they're a troll, a clout chaser, a ladder climber, and they'll even step on the throats of their friends to get there. What do you think they would do to somebody that they barely know? Okay. And with that, listen, Mysterious again put up that other video of her timeline. I have a lot of stuff I could say for that. I've also, if you can't tell, when I grew up, I wanted to be an attorney. I love watching court cases. I've thought about revisiting because the conversation with me has been a lot about Trisha Paytas. I have thought about going back and visiting the Casey Anthony trial, because if you'd like to see someone else, I believe is capable of looking you dead in your face and lying, and then wondering why you can't believe them, that's another one. You want to see narcissism at its finest? There's one. we could visit the Casey Anthony. If you guys want to hear it, just let me know down below. I put up my PayPal down in the description because a couple people was like, they know how many hours I'm putting in this. Don't feel obligated to do it. If you want to do it, I appreciate it. I really, really do. But I'm hoping to get to the point to where I can get, like, say, maybe monetize the channel. And then listen, I'll have to watch what I say more so I can be YouTube friendly or whatever. But I like doing it that way because you are like commercial based, right? That you're getting ad revenue off how many views you get, and that to me should translate in the quality of your uploads. So if you want to, that's cool. And to the person down there that said about live streaming, it will come when it comes, whenever I can. And I even think somebody commented on the video I put up earlier. Oh, what was her name? Oh, if I could get to her name, I would. Oh, what was her name? She was sweet. Oh, you know what I can do? I can look it up right now. Hold on. Oh, it is Carla. Is that Koala? So looking forward to your eventually live streams. I'm glad you showed up on my timeline. Love your videos. Keep it up. I look forward to the days you post. That is so, thank you. It's stuff like that. It's like comments like that. I mean, getting down below that is just so encouraging. I will tell you, as now a content creator, and again, like I said, I'm not new to. I've done stuff like this before, but that's what encourages people to want to produce more. When you see people actually like what you're doing, it really does encourage you to want to continue. So I can't say thank you enough for that. And for whoever else you watch, when you leave a positive comment like that down below, it is encouraging. So I'll thank you for everyone that you do that for. Someone else them. Okay, with that, I'm going to try and get this one out. Again, I probably will try to do some reactions. They don't require us, you can just react to something or talk about it in real time. These right here kind of take some work. I know it seems like I just played someone else's half an hour of their stuff, but if you knew how much actually research I had done before I stumbled on this guy, that I was like, oh my God, he's basically done everything. I wished I'd found him, a little earlier, but it is what it is. Listen, things happen for a reason. And with that, guys, thanks again. Thanks for all the love and support. We will see you in the next one. I'll work on my next one. Again, going to do Mysterious's timeline. I think that's important. Oh, if I can break it out really, really fast. Let me show you. This is kind of comical. Trisha had said something in one of her posts, in one of her videos, about how I couldn't believe it. I'll have to find it again. But she said that when she was in school, that she was what was it? One of her breasts were a B cup and the other one was a double D. And I was like, what? Now, women out there, okay, man, you probably get it if you watch it. Come on, man, you're usually men get it. But like a B next to a double D. Yeah, there are pictures of her. And she said that's when she was 12 years old. I've got my notes. You don't know how many notes, guys, I take over this stuff. Trust me, I do my research. But she said that she was a B on one side, a double D at the other one, at the age of 12. What the fuck? Where are we at right now? Okay, well, anyway, yeah, that should be fun. I don't even know what I'd do with that info. I don't even know what video to stick it in. All right, guys, have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I will try to get this one up as well. Again, thanks, everybody. See you in the next one. Have a good one.